Hi everyone, thank you for joining this webinar. My name is Sanjeev and I am joined by my colleagues Mike Yang, Bhavya and Savita. The today's topic for the webinar is wireless network emulators, where we'll be covering all the three, 2G, 3G, 4G, as well as 5G network labs. Yeah, if in, to begin with, let me give a brief introduction about our company. If some people might not be aware of what GL does, so let me just give a brief overview. GL Communication Inc. is a US-based company headquartered in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and it's been founded in 1986. We are a 30 plus years old company, and we have two divisions, one for the consulting services and another for the products and uh, product development. So under the this webinar, we'll be focusing on the products department. And in the products, we have specialized in test and measurement equipments, which are suitable for all telecommunication networks, testing all telecommunication networks like the PSTN, Ethernet, IP, wireless, or Sonnet or SDH networks. And typically, we have got every test tool for analyzing, monitoring, and capturing various kinds of testing in all these telecommunication networks. And in today's webinar, we'll be focusing more on the emulator products, the emulation products, which will be used for lab testing. And typically, we have the solution to simulate the entire 2G, 3G, 4G, and the latest 5G networks within a lab environment. And we can simulate every interface available within these networks. I'll hand over to Mike Yang, who will take over for the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Sanjeev. Okay, so the topics that we're going to cover today during the webinar is we'll first give you a sort of introduction to our end-to-end wireless network simulation tool. So the tool is based on our MAPS platform, and so I'll be also giving you a quick overview, a quick introduction to what the MAPS platform is all about. We'll go over each of the 2G, 3G, 4G, and the new 5G lab. We'll talk about some of the call scenarios that we can perform, what are the components that will be involved, and so on. Yes, and we will also talk about the interoperability tests that we can do between 3G, 2G, and the 4G labs. Okay, so to start off, let's take a look at the MAPS framework that's going to be involved in the simulation. So MAPS stands for message automation and protocol simulation. So it is a Windows-based GUI-driven application. So it's sort of our protocol simulation framework that we use to do all kinds of telecom protocol simulation. Anything between on the TDM side, we have two-wire CAS FXO. We can do ISDN SS7. And to the IP side, we can do things like SIP, Megaco, and of course the wireless side, which we're covering today, the 2G, 3G, 4G labs. So all of those are driven by the MAPS platform. And what it is, it's a multi-protocol, multi-technology platform based on messages, scripts, and profiles. So I would say the script is sort of the main architecture behind the MAPS tool. The scripts basically contain the state machines, that controls all of the call flows that you would expect for a particular protocol or node that you're simulating. So it's going to tell the simulator, what kind of messages that you want to send, what received messages are expected. So the entire call flow is sort of constructed within those scripts. So to help make things flexible, right, we have also messages and profiles. So what those two elements do is it basically allows you to customize the entire call flow for your network simulation. So anything within the message template, let's say, you can control what parameters to change if you need to add or remove any optional elements within the message. All of that control are given to you, and you're able to customize call scenarios to your needs. So we can simulate any node or any interface within these wireless networks. So actually what you see here, this diagram here, what we have is the entire 2G, 3G, 4G, and the 5G lab. This is showing you all of the elements within each core network that we support. And we will go over each of these core networks sort of in detail here. So just to find out, the tool that we provide, it's basically the core network simulation. So this diagram does also show RF side, the base stations where UEs are, you're able to connect UEs, real mobile phones to the network. So those are actually third-party hardware that we support with our network, and all of the sort of boxes that you see here with different element names here, those are all maps-based simulators that we're running. And you'll see that there's a interoperability here between the 2G lab, 3G lab, 4G lab, and the 5G lab here. Okay, so let's go over some of the use cases that we can provide you with these network labs. So sort of the first one is sort of the obvious one here. You're able to set up a local cellular network without relying on any cellular providers. So with as the previous slide sort of alluded to, we're giving you the entire network here, including the base station. So you're able to set up everything within your lab. You're able to connect mobile phones to this network through the base station that we provide, and you can perform all kinds of call scenarios with it. So the basic ones obviously are voice calls, SMS, and data browsing. So all of that is supported for any of these 2G, 3G, 4G networks. So with this, you're able to test and verify web services, any mobile applications that you have, right? So those are, you can think of over-the-top applications. So things like, if you want to test a voice call using a third-party, let's say, VoIP application, something like Skype, for instance, you're able to install the app on your phone, connect it to this isolated network lab here. You're able to have internet access going out, right? So you can have the phones attached to the network, make Skype calls, test for voice quality, test for any sort of network conditions that you might expect when you're actually connected to a real cellular network. You can pinpoint and troubleshoot network issues. We provide comprehensive logging for all of the elements that we simulate. And actually within the Maps tool, you'll actually see the entire call flow for every procedure that it's processing. When a phone attaches to the network, let's say, what messages are being sent, being exchanged, you're able to dig down into the message itself. You can see all of the parameters that's in that message. So that capability is given to you through the Maps tool. And of course, you can test for interoperability issues, right? Handover issues. So for example, you're on a 2G network and you want to make a call to another device that's on a 3G network. We can test for those kind of issues. We can test for roaming, for example, right? So if one device is on let's say a home network, and you have another device that's on a sort of a roaming network, you can make calls between the two and test for interoperability there. We can also give you the ability to perform feature tests, conformance tests, and functional tests on individual nodes. So the diagram that was shown in the previous slide, and let's go back to that. So you'll see that some of these elements here have multiple interfaces going in and out of them. So that's what we call a multi-interface simulation, where we're actually simulating the node itself. Let's say, for example, on the 2G side, the MSC, we're simulating this as a multi-interface node. So we're giving you the ability to simulate, let's say, on this A interface between the BSC and MSC, as well as on the map interfaces. So D, E, etc. there. So multiple interfaces are controlled by the same node. So that's sort of the multi-interface testing. We can also do a single interface testing. So if you have a device under test in mind, let's say you just want to test at the MSC and you're behaving as the BSC and you just want to test on this A interface here. We provide that as well. So you can just purchase a single interface of this BSC node, this A interface, and we allow you to just test on the A interface. And of course, you can modify any of the messages on the interface. You can construct your own call flows and so on. Okay, there's also performance testing that we can provide. So we are able to generate lots of calls to the network. So the last diagram actually refers to a sort of a real base stations connecting to the network. We're also able to simulate those base stations, simulate the sort of the RAN there, and then generate calls into the core network. And with that, we're able to generate thousands of calls, so you can perform load tests on your network. And lastly, you can do voice and data quality measurements. We have a separate set of tools called the voice quality test, and then there's tools called the vQuad, where you're able to, measure voice quality. You can send reference files from one device, record it on the other device, perform a analysis on what the reference file versus what the received degraded file is. You can also perform data analysis on call. So things like that are all provided from GL. So what are some of the advantages of this MAPS tool? Okay, so first, it's very simple to set up and execute. So when you purchase the entire lab from us, everything is sort of a turnkey solution. So everything is pre-installed, pre-configured. So once you get it into your lab, you can just turn it on. Everything is already pre-configured. So it's basically start up the application and you're able to have this entire lab network set up. There's also simple testbed configurations that you can do. So if you want to test with your own network, right, there's simple configurations that you can do within our testbed setup that lets you configure those things. With the profiles that we provide, so you can basically add unlimited number of users. So if you want to simulate different users, you're able to do that through profiles that we provide. And all of the MAPS products that we provide have ready-to-made scripts, so that covers most of the expected procedures that you would see in a real-life environment. Of course, those scripts can be customized, and you are able to write your own scenarios and test for different things. And of course, there's complete customization of all the parameters within the test case. So for performance testing, if you want to generate high volumes of voice or SMS calls, we do have a separate appliance that can do that. It's called a MAPS RTP-HD. So that's a dedicated appliance for generating RTP calls. And there's also a similar appliance for generating data calls. And that's able to actually handle up to 500,000 UEs. And it's able to do up to 4 gigabits per second or 40 gigabits per second, depending on the model that you choose. You can do that level of mobile traffic to this thing called a MAPS packet load. Okay, so for the audio traffic generation, right, for all of this 2G, 3G, 4G lab, we're able to generate audio once you have a call established. So things like sending voice files, sending tones, sending digits, sending facts if that's a requirement. Right, so all of those things are supported. All of the industry standard codecs are supported. So on the 2G side, you have your GSM, full rate, half rate, right? On the 3G side, AMR, narrowband, wideband, and then on the 4G side, the EVS codec and all of the different rates. So those are all supported. So with the maps, so just a software-based solution, you are able to generate RTP sessions just using your computer's NIC. But there's a limitation to like how many sessions that can be supported. And this RTP HD system that we're providing is basically using a specialized NIC that lets you generate up to 8,000 RTP sessions per NIC interface on the appliance. So this appliance comes with 4 NICs. You'll see in this diagram here. Each NIC is capable of doing 8,000 calls. So you have 32,000 different endpoints that you can simulate from this one application or this appliance here. Similarly, the packet load is used for data traffic generation. So that's like the GTP sessions that you have for data calls. So this is able to simulate a massive number of UEs, again, up to 500,000. This picture here is showing the 10 gig version. So there's 4 10 gig ports on the device. There's also a 1 gig version with 4 1 gig ports. Okay, so this is basically going to encapsulate the generated packet data with GTP headers. And we're able to transmit it through gateway points, such as the SGSN and GGSN on the 2G, 3G side, or the SGW and PGW on the 4G side. So for each of the users that we simulate with the packet load, you're also able to have multiple sessions attached to the same user. So you can allocate different bandwidth at the endpoint. So for the files for the traffic that it generates, you can do stateful TCP or HTTP traffic, or you can actually provide your own PCAP capture. So if you want to make a capture from your device, through Wireshark, you can make the capture, and then we can actually play it back with this packet load, and encapsulate all of that data with GTP headers. Okay, so for all of the maps nodes that we emulate, there's a central control point that we have that allows you to control everything from one GUI, and that's called the Maps Remote Controller. So there's a screenshot here, sort of on the left here, showing you all of the different nodes that it's communicating with. This is an example of a 4G IMS setup here. Okay, so this is one control point controlling multiple servers. These nodes can be running on the same server, or it can be running on multiple servers. So apart from the remote control, there's also a set of APIs that we provide for all of our maps platforms. The APIs are available for Python, Java, VB scripts, and basically, again, it's a sort of a different way to letting you control the nodes that we have. So you can run, automation tests from a Python script, for example, that controls all of the nodes within the 4G or 3G network. Okay, so now let's take a look at the 4G and the IMS lab that we provide. Okay, so there's 2 core network here. So one is the Evolved Packet Core for the 4G LTE setup, and then there's a separate core for the IMS network. So with the 4G network by itself, right, you can have data sessions, but this core by itself does not provide you any voice call features. So to enable that, right, we need to add an IMS core, which gives you sort of voice and SMS capabilities there. So let's sort of quickly go over what each of these nodes are. So on the base station side, there's a eNode B that's allowing mobiles to connect in to this core network. So that's sort of the interface point between mobile phones and our network. So this, on the left side here, this eNode B will be a sort of a real base station that we provide you. So this is broadcasting RF signals. With our maps tool, we can also do a simulated eNode B. So this is able to generate calls, act as UEs, placing calls into the core network. So the MME here, the mobility management entity. So this is sort of the key control node, I would say, for the LTE network. So when the mobile phone attaches to it, the MME is going to try to send the attach request to the HSS, the home subscriber server here. This is going to try to authenticate any users that tries to attach here. The SGW, which is the serving gateway, so this is going to route and forward any user data packets between the MME and the packet gateway here. Packet gateway is basically going to give you the actual connectivity between let's say the user equipment, the mobile phones, to the internet. Okay, so that's sort of the Evolve packet core here. And on the IMS side, we have different CSCFs. So these are call session control functions that handle, basically they're handling SIP messages that are coming in from the mobile phone. So when a phone tries to register to an IMS core, what it's actually doing is it's trying to perform SIP registration to the IMS network here. Okay, so we'll try to, the mobile phone will get this address to the PCSCF when it tries to attach, when it attaches to this LTE network. And when it tries to register to the IMS, it'll send register messages to the PCSCF first. This is the proxy CSCF, which then is going to route the request to the interrogating the ICSCF here. It's going to do some authentication, and then it's going to have the serving CSCF here perform further authentication, and then that's how sort of the mobile phone registers to the network here. This diagram also shows a SGS connection going to the 3G core network here. So this is when interoperability comes into play here. So if you when the 4G network was first rolled out, not all of them had the VoLTE capabilities or the IMS network behind the scenes that lets you place voice over LTE calls. So for those scenarios, they sort of rely on the SGS network, or this SGS interface, I should say, to perform call scenarios called the circuit switch fallback. So essentially what happens is when the mobile tries to make a phone call on the 4G network, it'll try to actually attach back to the 3G network and then place calls from the 3G network instead. So that's what this interface was used for. It's called a circuit switch fallback. Same for SMS, right? Without the IMS network, you cannot send send text messages from the mobile phone directly. So you rely on this SGS interface to make calls, to make those SMS calls. Okay, so this is just sort of a list of the different procedures that we support, right? You can register your phones, authenticate, place voice over LTE calls. Of course, you can attach phones to do your basic web browsing. And the SGS, on the SGS interface, we support all of those circuit switch fallback procedures there. So with the different call scenarios, using voice over LTE, you can place calls between two real mobile devices, or you can call from simulated devices from our simulated UNLB. You're able to make calls to the mobile device and back and forth. Same is true for the SMS as well. Okay, so this picture here is basically showing you some of the procedures that happens when a mobile phone tries to attach to a LTE network. So I think I'm not going to cover this in great detail here. I think we're running a little short on time now. But yeah, so this is what happens when a UE tries to attach. Go through the UNLB. The UNLB sends the message to the MME, which forwards the request to the HSS to register, and then it'll try to establish a packet data network session there between the UNLB and ultimately the PDN gateway. Okay, and then this slide here is showing you the HSS, what happens when it tries to authenticate a user that's trying to attach to a network. Okay, so with that said, let's go to the 3G network And I'm going to hand it over to Bhavya, who is going to continue with the 3G and the 2G setup.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Thanks for introducing us to the 4G labs. So I'll be just going through our 3G lab and 2G lab capabilities. So this slide here is depicting the 3G lab network interface or network architecture. First, I'll go over each of the nodes which are shown here. So basically, the initial node will be the UE, so which is a mobile equipment. So then, when the boxes here, you can see the HNB gateway, MSC, and HLR and SMSC will form a circuit switched core network, and the SGSN and the GGSN will constitute for the packet switched core network. So UE has to attach to the network via the home node B, which is exactly similar to the BTS, which can interact with the UE via air interface. So which can connect to the 3G core. So home node B can connect to the HNB gateway via IOH interface. So here home node B just enables UE connectivity to the 3G core network. So once the UE is able to communicate with the home node B, so then home node B will send the UE request to the HNB gateway. So as the UMTS 3G network has both the capabilities of the CS and the PS, so it can enable UE to make voice calls, send SMS, as well as it can enable UE to connect to the internet. So whenever UE requests, the initially UE attaches to the network, so it can attach either to make a voice call, or it can attach to browse the internet. So the HNB gateway will segregate the packets into IUC which are related to circuit switch network, and it will forward to the MSC. So the MSC will perform the authentication of the UE by consulting the HLR interface. So the HLR will act as a database, actually, which will house the complete subscriber related information, and MSC will get the authentication parameters and authenticates the UE, then allows UE to use the network services. So then UE can make calls or send SMS. So whenever UE makes a call to the 3G network, MSC itself switches to another mobile or another equipment in the 3G network. So if the UE wants to make a call to another network, such as it makes to connect to an IMS or network, so it can connect to an MGC via BICC interface and initiate SIP registration request to the IMS network. So here again, this 3G MSC can connect to the IMS network, or it can connect to the evolved the EPC, that is the 4G network, via the SGS interface, or it can even connect to the 2G MSCs. So the complete interoperability can be simulated with the 3G lab. So UE here can call to even the UE can call to a PSTN phone. While coming to the data browsing, UE here can attach to the SGSN via HNB gateway through IUPS interface. So once the UE attaches to the SGSN, so SGSN can request GGSN to allocate a IP address for the UE to connect to the internet. So here we have two versions of the simulations. So either we can simulate UEs, that is real mobiles can be connected to the home node B to the 3G core, or we can also simulate UEs within the simulated RNC. So in order to generate bulk calls, so with the help of the RTP HD, or in the PS side, the RNC can simulate browsing sessions, bulk browsing sessions with the help of the packet load appliance. So here, even the UV can send SMS with the help of the SMSC gateway to the different UVs. So this is about the basic introduction to the 3G lab. So basically, then this slide will summarize the call scenarios which can be performed using the 3G lab that GL offers. So here in the supported procedures, we can support mobile originated calls, mobile terminated calls, and location update, and we can even perform the periodic location updates. In case of the web browsing procedures, we can attach the network, we can identify, we can simulate the identification procedures, routing area procedures, and we can activate the PDP contests, update or create dedicated bearers and web browsing sessions, and also we can simulate the detached procedures. So while coming to the call scenarios, we can simulate calls from real mobile to a real mobile, or simulated mobile, simulated UE from an RNC to the real UE connected to the home node B. And we also can simulate a bulk wide traffic simulation using maps, SIP, RTP HD appliance. And even the web browsing, also bulk mobile traffic simulation can be simulated using our packet load appliance. So while coming to the call flow scenarios, so this will explain about the initial procedure which happens whenever UE tries to connect to the 3G CS network. So UE has to update its location to the MSC before doing anything on the before using any service in the 3G interface. So whenever UE tries to connect to the 3G interface, so it will initiate a location update request to the RNC, which will forward the request to the MSC via IUCS interface. So whenever MSC will authenticate the user by contacting the HSS and getting the security information, authentication information, and it will update the accept the location if the authentication is successful, and thereby allowing UE to use the services offered by the 3G network. So these are the major call flows which can be performed with a UE when registered on the 3G network. So this call flow is shown the mobile originating call flow. So where UE is making a request for the voice call to the RNC, which will be forwarded to the MSC. So whenever the CM service request is nothing but a voice call or the SMS call request, so whenever MSC receives the request, so it will again authenticate the user, and if a user is allowed or subscribed to do the calls, so the service will be accepted, and the calls will be forwarded to the destination that is called party. So the call party can answer the call, and the conversation happens. So for the conversation, we are supporting all the possible codecs which are required for the the RTP traffic simulation. So once the call is established and the conversation is over, any one party can clear the call by sending the disconnect message. So that will be again forwarded again, and the resources will be released once the call is disconnected. So similarly, this call flow actually showing what happens whenever a mobile is receiving a call in 3G network. So whenever anybody calls a mobile within the 3G network, so the MSC will send a paging message over the broadcast interface. So UEs will always listen to the broadcast interface, and whenever it detects that paging has been initiated to itself, so it will respond via paging response, thereby requesting connection with the MSC. So then MSC will forward this setup message, which will be having calling party information, and the UE, if a user can answer the call. So after that, the conversation happens, and anybody calling or the call party can tear down the calls, and the resources which are allocated in the 3G interfaces will be released. And in this slide, you are going to see a GPRS session mobility management call scenario. So if the user wants to use wants to connect to a packet data network, so it has to attach to RNC by sending attach request. So it's over the IUPS interface. So whenever RNC receives attach request, it will forward to the SGSN. The SGSN again can query HLR to get the authentication parameters and authenticates the UE and accepts the attach request from the UE. So once the attach is complete, the UE can request for the PDP context request by asking for the IP address and the access point names. So then SGSN will request the GGSN to activate a PDP context, that is nothing but allocating IP to the UE. And whenever the GGSN allocates an IP, so the same will be sent to SGSN, and the SGSN will forward that information back to the UE with the activate PDP context accept. So once the UE has the IP address, so we can see the context is established. So that a UE has the IP address, and now it can browse the internet. So the internet data, whichever UE is browsing, will be carried over the tunnel which will be created between the in the GGSN to carry the data which is exchanged with the UE and the packet data network. So GGSN will act as the router between the UE and the packet data network, which can send the packet generated by the UE to the data network and vice versa. So it can just route all the packets which are destined to the UE from the packet data network. So once user wants to deactivate the PDN connectivity, they can send the deactivate PDP context request, and the services which are allocated to the UE will be released. So that completes the 3G lab capabilities which GL can offer. So let's move to the 2G lab architecture here. So it is almost similar to the 3G lab. So here only the basic differences will be the RNC capabilities are handled here with the BSC, that is base station controller, and here home node B functionalities are handled with the BTS, so which actually hosts transceivers for the UE on the air interface to connect. So MSC functionality will remain same in the 3G and the 4G network. So it will enable UE to make voice calls to any node like a UE in the here UE can be referred as a mobile station in the 2G net interfaces. So here UE can mobile station can call another mobile station within the 2G interface, 2G network, or it can call UE within the 3G network, or it can also call to a PSTN phone. So complete interoperability, which was discussed in the 3G lab capabilities, also holds good in the 2G lab capabilities. So it also houses the HLR, which can again acts as a database which can save the complete subscription related information, and we have an SMS gateway which can communicate with the MSC and the which can forward the incoming SMS from the UE to the destination UE. So similarly here BTS can the SGSN can be used to enable UE to connect to the data interface, packet data network. So here again, the similar to the 3G, GGSN will allocate IP address to the UE to connect to the packet data network. And this slide will give you a summary of the call scenarios which can be simulated using the 2G lab simulations. So here also, as in the 3G lab simulation, we can simulate mobile originating calls, mobile terminating calls, location updates, normal location, periodic location updates. And in the web browsing, we can attach, we can request for the BDP context, activation, deletion, updation, and web browsing sessions. And we can also detach procedures. So in the call scenarios here also, real UE to real UE calls can be simulated, or simulated UE to the real mobiles, or simulated to simulated calls can be supported. Also, the similar to the 3G, we can support bulk voice traffic simulation using MapSip HD. So this slide depicts the call flow whenever of the location update whenever the MS tries to connect to the 2G network. So whenever MS tries to connect to the 2G network, it will send a channel request to the BTS via air interface, so which will be transferred to the BSC. So then the initial connection with the BSC will happen by activating channels on air interface. So then that will be communicated to the MS via immediate assignment command. So then the location request will be transferred to the MSC. So the MSC will authenticate the user, and if enabled the cipher mode, the ciphering or encryption, and then when the authentication and ciphering successful, so MSC can accept the location and save its location in the HLR. Okay, this slide shows the mobile originating call flow, where actually MS is trying to call another number. So whenever it's tried to call, it will request the MSC with the CM service request. So mentioning whether it wants a voice call. Then if MSC authenticates and forwards the call to the calling party, then the voice path will be activated by assigning RTP IP address in the ports. So then the RTP conversation happens when the call is connected. Once the media transmission completes or the conversation is over, anybody can release the calls, and thereby releasing all the services which are all the resources which are allocated in the 2G lab network. So when we talk about the mobile terminating call, so this is when networks tries to route incoming calls to a mobile. So whenever it wants to route a call to the mobile, MSC will initiate a paging, which will be on a broadcasted channel or the control channel, and mobile will detect that the paging is directed to itself, and then it responds via channel activation. And once the MSC receives the channel, BSC receives the channel activation, it allocates a channel on the air interface, and then the MSC will respond via paging response, and then the call which is incoming call will be the calling party number information will be sent to the mobile, and the mobile can choose to answer the call or reject the call. Thereby, if the mobile answers, the voice RTP media conversation path establishes, and they can RTP media conversation happens. Once the conversation is over, anybody can decide to disconnect the call, and thereby releasing the resources allocated. And this is the typical SMS call flow. Whenever the MSC receives an SMS from the MS, so it forwards to the SMSC node. There SMSC also again checks which MSC is actually having where the actual the destination MS is located, and then it will forward that SMS to the MSC. Then MSC will again page the destination MS, and then delivers the SMS to the destination mobile. So again, this is the GPRS call flow where mobile is trying to connect to the internet. So it can send attach request to the SGSN, and SGSN again authenticates and request PDP context with the GGSN, and a PDP context will be created, and MS is assigned with the IP address. So now mobile can browse the internet, and then whenever he wants to clear, he can deactivate the PDP context. So these were the capabilities which can be performed using 2G and 3G lab setups which GL offers. So now I'll hand over to Savita, who can continue with the internetwork calls along with the 5G network capabilities. Over to you, Savita.
Yeah, thanks, Bhoy. Thanks, Bhoy and Mike, for introducing our users to 2G and 3G and 4G labs. Now we'll cover internetwork calls using these network labs. We can achieve what all internetwork calls can be simulated. So basically, we have two categories here. One is normal calls, where any user can call other user of any network. So here we have two categories, like a voice calls or SMS calls can be performed from one user to another user. And another one is a roaming call scenarios, where any user can go into PLMN of other network and register there. So we'll quickly go over these call scenarios. We will have 2 or 3 examples of such call scenarios, and we'll cover how these internetwork calls works. This is one example where we are trying to show you how a 3G user is going to call a 4G user. When 3G user calls a 4G user, the call goes to UV2 HNB gateway, and then HNB gateway will forward it to a MSC. When it reaches a MSC, MSC will identify the call number, whether it is registered into that network or not. If it is not registered, it will not identify the MSISTN of the 4G user, and it will search. We have 4G database, subscription database here maintained here also. We are going to search there. If it is found, this call is routed to a MGC via BICC. That is, initial address message is sent to a MGC. Now MGC will route the call to IMS or GSM. Since the MSISTN is having some ranges, the MGC will forward the calls based on the ranges configured in the testbed or in the profiles. So the call is given to MSC since it falls within the range of 4G users, and the call is given to 4G. In the reverse direction also, when 4G user calls a 3G user, it goes all the way from EPC to IMS. Once it comes to IMS, the call number called MSISTN is identified here. A map is maintained here also. If it is not registered here, the call is routed to a MGC. And in the MGC, based on the ranges of the MSISTN, the call is given to or it is routed to a MSC via initial address message. And now MSC will page the UV. This is how we are going to simulate 3G to 4G or 4G to 3G internetwork calls. One more example is CS fallback. As we have seen in the network diagram of 4G and 3G, we have seen this SGS interface, which connects MME and MSC over SGS interface. So whenever user of 4G user is registering to the network, he will register to the 3G network as well through this SGS interface. So when registration request or attach request comes to MME, MME will perform a location update to MSC as well. So in this way, a user is registered into 3G as well as a 4G. And when user moves out of the network coverage of the 4G, the radio network automatically switches to the 3G user 3G network, it picks up the 3G network and the call will be established. This is how the CS fallback calls works. Then we'll go to the next scenario, that is a roaming. Here we have taken the example of 2G user calling a 4G roaming user. Means when we say a 4G roaming user, this 4G user is entered into a 2G network and he is registered into the MSC of the 2G network. So whenever 2G calls a 4G roaming user, the call goes from BTS to BSC and BSC will forward it to MSC. Now MSC will search for the MSIST, call number of the 4G user. Since the 4G user is already registered into a MSC network, it will identify the MSIST and the call is routed from the MSC to a 4G user. This is how the 4G roaming users are given with the incoming calls. So these are few examples. In this way, we can achieve any of the inter-network calls as listed in the previous slide. This shows the flexibility of the 3G, 2G, and 4G network interoperability. With this, these scenarios, we'll move to our next topic, which is upcoming technology, that is 5G. So as everywhere, all the network providers, service providers deploying their network, phases and the network nodes we are going on with our maps application. So we'll go through all these network nodes one by one. As you have seen in the 2G, 3G or 4G, air interface is supported by a GNB or ENB or a BTS or a HNB. In the same fashion, here GNB supports air interface with the mobile. And it will connect to the AMF. AMF is a core network entity which provides complete mobility management functions, and it will control all other network entities within the network. And it will also provide SM context information, means management functions as well, along with the mobility functions. So AMF, since it is the main entity in the network, it is going to connect to a different networks, as you can see here: NSSF, AUSF, UDM, SMF, UPF. So here we have something different nodes, which is not familiar with the 2G, 3G, or because these are all service-based interfaces, which are of stateless functions. Means it is just like a transaction-based request and response. It gives the services, and here the storage is decoupled from these network nodes. And they can provide the services, and it is very easy to introduce any of the services within using these nodes. So that is the flexibility of service-based architecture. So the core network completely, excluding N1, N2, N4, N3, N6, these interfaces, all the other interfaces are interfaces supports or includes this service-based architecture. So as I said, AMF is the main entity to provide mobility functions. It connects to AUSF to get the authentication parameters or to authenticate. It is the responsibility to get the authentication parameters from the AUSF. So AUSF will not be having, as I said, the storage is decoupled here. The AUSF will contact UDM, which is similar to our HSS or HLR in our previous networks. So UDM will be having all the subscription information stored within it. And all the nodes, whoever wants subscription information can register to UDM to get the information. So AUSF is going to contact UDM to get the authentication parameters over N13 interface. And this AMF is also going to get the subscription parameters from the UDM via N8 interface. Okay. After N8 interface, it is AMF connecting to a SMF. This gives N1 messages which are carried from the mobile related to session management functions are given to SMF via N11 interface. And also it will control these session management functions with the help of SMF. Here the SMF is connected to UPF, UPF and PCF. PCF gives the policy control functions, and UPF is used to have a data connectivity. Here control plane and the user plane functions are separated. So UPF handles only data traffic, data path, and SMF will be having only a signaling part. In our previous network interfaces, we were having S gateway or P gateway, which were used to have both the control plane and user plane functionalities. But here they are separated. This helps UPF to install or deploy very near to a GNB to avoid the delays or the latencies. With this network diagram, here whatever the interfaces listed with the blue color are simulated by GL. These are all supported by GL. With this basic introduction, let's move on to some of the key principles associated with the 5G network. Here we have two versions. One is a standalone and another one is a non-standalone. Non-standalone relies with the 4G network. Since it is very difficult to bring complete entire 5G network at this stage, so there is a non-standalone version which will rely on 4G network. But to completely enjoy 5G features, it is required to have a standalone interface. So we support only a standalone interfaces or architecture. And as I said, control plane and user plane functionalities are separated, which will give you more flexibility to connect UPF very near to a radio interface. That will reduce your latency and other delays in the network. And the service-based architecture provides you a stateless functions, network functions that helps in quick services. Here, one more important feature is a network slicing. Network slicing gives you different services like mobile broadband services or mobile-to-mobile massive IoT services and low latency IoT services. So we are categorizing the network resources based on these services, and the network slicing is used to identify these services. And then last few points are it supports, the core network supports both 3GPP and non-3GPP access. It integrates both of them, and coming to the authentication and security capabilities, it gives a high unified authentication framework and high security capabilities. Okay, we have listed two versions of simulation or use cases here. The entire simulation can be means entire 5G core networks simulation can be simulated to test the GNB. So DUT will be used as a GNB to test that N1 N2 interface. We can use complete core network from the maps. Another one example is vice versa. Means GNB can be GL's entity, and you can test your core network. You can test any of these nodes within the network. Okay, and these are the few call scenarios. UE registration signaling, which includes registration, authentication, security, PDP connectivity, and in the session establishment procedure, we are going to provide or support session establishment, session release, modification procedures. Along with that, deregistration procedures and UV context release procedures are also supported with the multi-interface simulation. This is a typical call flow with MAPS 5G core network with multi-interface setup. Here you can see a registration request is received to AMF. AMF is going to authenticate using AUSF node. Once the authentication is successful, security is established. After that, AMF is going to register to a UDM to get the subscription information. It can request any of the subscription informations like NSSCI, AM data, SMF selection. There are many subscription data available with the UDM, so that once you register to the network, you can get all those subscription informations. Here we have listed 3 of such subscription informations. Once AMF gets all this information from the UDM, it is going to create a UV context at the AMF and attaches to the network, allows the UV to attach to the network. And hereafter, the next procedure is establishing the session. So AMF is going to provide the session management request to SMF using SM context messages, and SMF in turn contacts with the PCF for the policy rules, and it is going to contact with the UPF to get the tunnel information. And once all the information or all the resources are ready, it is going to establish a data path from UV to GNB and from GNB to UPF, and this completes the session allocation procedure. Means the session a PDP context is established here, and the sessions can be released. In the example, we have shown session release procedure, and also deregistration procedure is shown in this example. This is call simulation using MAPS 5G. I think this covers basic introduction of the 5G. Since there is no time, we are running out of time. We can cover the features of 5G and other nodes and procedures what we are going to support within our multi-interface in another webinar with more detailed explanations. I hope I have covered the basic things with the 5G.
Yeah, thank you, Savita. Thank you, Bhavya and Mike. Sorry, we ran out of time because since the topic was very vast, we could not cover in within the 1 hour time frame. Once again, I would like to thank everyone for attending this webinar, and hopefully we'll see you back again for the next webinar. Thank you, everyone.